legal. I'll refresh it. Let's talk about international transfer. Good anyhow. Get your book out. We're going to use, for example, we'll use problem 29. Just to show you the differences. Okay? And we got a couple of minutes before we start. Yeah, probably did.
And I had to sit in follow forward.
I don't like the way that he talks to me.
Let's see. Time to start. Whatever you can. Show me entering here. Steve. What's going on? Matthew is, Norman is, Jericho is, Brian is, Mason is not, Travis is, yeah, there's going to be entering. Are we going for the 60s Indian look? Have okay. Transfer pricing is, I mentioned earlier, we're going to look at this, like I say, we're going to look at problem 29 for an illustration of this. But it is a factor in taxation. You say, what do you mean? Well, companies, when they make a product in 2 or 3 different countries and then transfer and assemble it in another and transfer it, well, what cost you transfer it as will dictate what taxes you incur. Because we generally pay income taxes on profits, right? So we try to make sure that we recognize the most profit in countries with the lowest tax rates. Like say Singapore, what they've done, they've exported their unemployment. They do have a policy that if you establish a company there and build a company there and hire so many workers, you get tax-free for 15 years. So guess what? A lot of companies moved from Japan and other countries and established their assembly points there, even if they make it in another country. And they try to recognize as much profit in Singapore because that means zero taxation on it. And lower your taxable income in other countries. And by the way, IRS is having a very difficult time. As it says there, transfer pricing, tax liabilities, royalties, other payments due to different laws of different countries and states. We learn how to manipulate the system to our benefit. And part of the problem we have with IRS, they have a real difficult problem, I know, with China and Japan and Oriental countries, because there's not that many people that know tax law and also know these languages. And so I guess if you're going to become fluent in Chinese or Japanese and all that, you can probably get you off the IRS. And again, the incentive is you want to increase your profit in a low tax country and decrease profit in high tax country. Hopefully it doesn't take an overhead to get that logic around to you. But you would understand that's what we're trying to do. And so with that in mind, let's consider what's going on in problem 29. Take a second to read that problem. And let's see what we have there. We got what, Skane, is that how you pronounce it? Skane? Skane Shipping operates a fleet of container ships in international trade between Sweden and Singapore, and of all places. All the shipping income that is related to the SSL ship is deemed to be earned in Sweden. SSL also owns a dock facility in Singapore that services the fleet. Income from the dock facility is deemed to be earned in Singapore. SLL's income deemed attributable to Sweden is taxed at 70%. The income in Singapore is taxed at 25%. And last year, the dock facilities had operating revenues of $7 million, excluding services performed for SSL ships, and their shipping revenues for last year was $39 million. Operating cost of the dock facility totaled $8 million in last year, and operating costs for the shipping before deduction of dock facility costs totaled $26 million. No similar dock facilities in Singapore are available to SSL. However, a facility in Malaysia would have charged SSL an estimated $5 million for the services that the Singapore dock provided the ships. Management noted that had the services been provided in Sweden, the cost would have totaled $12 million. SSL argued to the Swedish tax officials that the appropriate transfer price is a price that would have been charged in Sweden. The tax officials determined that the Malaysian price is the appropriate one. This is, what is the difference in tax cost to SSL between the alternative prices for dock services, that is the price in Sweden versus the one in Malaysia? Well, we got two companies here, right? Or two divisions. Shipping and the facilities. Okay. Revenue. We've got outside revenue is how much for the shipping? What is it? Y'all read the problem?
39 million.
39 million. What is it for the facilities?
7 million.
7 million. Okay. Is there any other revenue that needs to be considered here? Well, if we use the, again, if we use, say, let's use the Malaysian price basis. We also have a transfer price for the facility, right? How much would we use? Well, what was the Malaysian? If we use the Malaysian pricing, what's transfer cost? 5 million, isn't it? So we got transfer price. It doesn't matter here, 5 million. Total revenue, 39 million for shipping, 12 million for the facilities. Okay, let's do our cost. What were the costs incurred by the shipping? What are the outside costs?
26 million.
Outside cost is 26 million. How about for the facilities?
8 million.
8 million. Okay. Transfer cost would be what? 5 million we used up there, right? So total cost would be 31 million and 8 million, right? So, what's taxable income under shipping?
$8 million.
Yeah. Taxable income or income before income tax is 8 million. Over here, 4 million, isn't it? What's the tax rate that we use for the shipping? %, right? So income tax for the shipping line would be 5.6 million. Over here, what's the tax rate we use? So that means our taxes are what, 1 mil? So total tax together would be what, 6.6 mil? Now, let's do the same thing, only let's use the Swedish basis. So, let's write the shipping over here. And facility again. Outside, does revenue, outside revenue change? No. No, outside revenue is still going to be 39 mil, 7 mil. What about transfer price? What's transfer price now?
$12 million.
12 million. Okay. Outside costs, do they change? No. We still got 26 mil and 8 mil. Notice now our transfer cost though is 12 mil. So total cost, we got 38 million and we got 8 million. Okay. What's taxable income now under shipping? 1 million. And it's still what, 4 million over here? Or no, I take it back. 15 mil, isn't it?
Well,
Oh yeah, I guess. I'm looking at one that 11 mil. Okay. Tax rate is still 70% and 25%, right? So what's the income tax here? 0.7 mil. Over here, 2.75 mil. So total together would be what? So you got a difference of roughly what, about 3,150,000? Just by how we transfer it. You think they're going to argue and fight about that? Absolutely. What a difference can make. So again, great illustration there, just looking at it. It does matter how we do it. And some of the statistics I've seen from the IRS, what they're estimating they're losing just because of transfer pricing will astound you. There. The thing of it is, there are rules in place, there are policies to try to make things fair, so to speak. Again, fair is a subjective word as to what we mean here. But the problem is, like I said, I think at one time I was reading Chinese workers, they had 5 people in IRS that speak Chinese, trying to deal with transfer pricing with all the companies, what's going on. They're snowed under. So again, it does make for some really tough times for them trying to come up with what is a fair price, fair transfer issue. Okay. So again, you do have, you can see where we do have a lot of work and a lot of why they try to make the rules so precise in relationship to taxes and how do you count, because it does make a difference. Again, those there 70% to 25% area would definitely come into play. Now, in coming up with another aspect, and I know we've done this, did we look at problem 31, sort of issues? I think we did, I'm not sure. About how management would view different policies and how they might react to it. Does anybody remember? Okay, like I say, trying to keep in my mind. Let's look at this one, because it does, in performance evaluation, how we deal with it, how we're going to subjectively evaluate it. And again, it is some senses how people get into some really frank discussions when you do this. But we got Cochise Corporation, Southern Divisions operating in capacity, which does matter. It's been asked by Northern Division to supply a thermal switch, which Southern sells to its regular customers for $60 each. Northern, which is operating at 70% capacity, is willing to pay $40 for each switch. Northern will put the switch into kitchen appliances that it's manufacturing on a cost-plus basis for the Army. Southern has a $34 variable cost of producing the switch. The cost of the kitchen appliance, as built by Northern, as follows. We got purchase parts, thermal Southern switch, other variable costs, fixed overhead administrative, or total cost. Northern believes that the price concession is necessary to get the job. The company uses ROI and dollar profits in evaluating division and managers' performance. Now, if you're the Southern Division's controller, would you recommend supplying the switch to Northern? It says ignore any income tax issues. Why or why not? First is pretty straightforward. Any ideas? You do look like a refugee from the 60s. Their headband. Now, why? Why not? Sir? Mr. Jameson?
Because they're already operating at capacity and getting $60 for all the switches, so why would they want to get $40 for it?
Exactly. They're operating at capacity. They're getting $60 per switch now. How do we measure? How do we evaluate them? What does it say?
ROI and profits.
Profits, and so obviously if we're cutting $20 off every unit we supply Northern, that's definitely knocking in the divisional profit, right? And also, two, how do we calculate ROI? Net income over average assets. We'll knock that in the head too, isn't it? ROI. So by both measures, that Southern division guy's gonna say, ain't no way, Jose. We're gonna protest it. Now, B says, would it be to the short run economic advantage of Cochise for Southern to supply Northern with the switches at $40 each? Cochise as a whole, would it be better off? What about the pride of Lawrence County? What do you think?
Can't say I don't have my vote.
Oh, okay. Jerica, you do have a book. What do you think?
I would say yes because Northern is operating at 70% capacity.
No, right answer, wrong reason. Wrong reason. We know as a company as a whole what will be happening. But what happens to Southern? They lose $20 a unit, right? Which means Cochise loses $20 a unit because they're selling to outside vendors, right? Or purchasers there. So instead of selling it for 40, they're going to be still selling it for 60. They're selling it for 40. So the company as a whole is losing $20 a unit. But I agreed with Jerica there that the company as a whole would be better off. Where am I getting that at? Obviously something in Northern more than offsets it. What offsets it? Well, they list some things about there. Does it change the purchase parts from outside vendors? The answer is no. We're going to pay $40 for it, so again, that's accounted with Southern, so that doesn't change. Other variable costs, will that change any if we buy from Southern? No, that ain't going to change. Fixed overhead and administration. That's got to be the key. You say, what do you mean? Well, if we get this order, and again, assuming that that we're allocating our overhead, fixed overhead, and administration costs, we incur those costs irregardless whether we get this order or not, right? Fixed overhead and administrative costs. And so by getting this order, we're able to allocate $64 a unit, right? So yeah, we're losing $20 a unit by making Southern supply Northern at 40 instead of 60, but we're actually increasing our intake there, what we allocate costs to, because we still incur that 64 whether we do or not. But here we're able to charge it. So in essence, we're $44 better off per unit. 64 minus the 20. There's why, in that sense, Cochise as a whole would be better off. Now, it says, discuss organizational manager behavior difficulties and, if any, inherent in the situation. Well, what do you think is going to happen here when discussing this? Well, we said Southern's management's gonna be what?
Be opposed to it.
They're gonna be opposed to it. Northern's management, they're gonna be all in for it, right? Cochise overall management, top corporate management, what do you think they're gonna be? They're gonna be for it or against it. Again, initially.
For it initially because you have a short run advantage.
Right, we said it's $44 a unit, right? So they're saying, hey, look, we're all in this game together. We wanna make a profit as a company as a whole. So $44 a unit, we're all in. Now, what if Cochise's top management comes in and overrules Southern management? They said, look, we're gonna do it, you gotta bite the bullet. And that happens sometimes. Off the bat, what's that do about this decentralized management format, if that's what they have? What do you think? Did it strengthen it, weaken it? Yeah. It's contrary to what we said about the division managers making their own decisions, right? Here we got the big brothers coming down saying this is the way it's going to be. Never had mom and dad saying, look, this is the way it is, whether you like it or not, it really doesn't matter, this is just the way it's going to be. Never had anybody do that to you, mom, dad, or your boss? Guys, gotta tell you, wait till you get married, then you'll get a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? What they say at the altar, I do and you will. You won't do that. But again, what it does, what you run into if you're really pushing decentralized management and all that, the initial reaction is going to be, boy, this is a sham. When push comes to shove, they just tell us what we're going to do. And that can happen. You got to be careful about that. In that sense, the organizational structure may be inappropriate for this decision, You might want to look at how often does this situation come up, would might be a consideration. And the thing about it is, we got what we're doing, in essence, what it appears as, if we kept it like this with no changes at all, we're enhancing Northern Division at the expense of Southern Division. And so that's not, again, keeping with evaluating management's performance. The thing about it is, you might want to, management better make allowances here, because obviously if this happens continually, whoever's in charge of Southern is going to say, I'm out of here. And does this happen in companies? Absolutely. It happens. You get in a situation where they go, wow, we favor one, not the other. I'll be honest with you, whether it's true or not, I feel that's what happened with Armco Steel for years. Middletown works got where they wanted. Ashland works where was the little brother. And hence got short end of the stick. Because corporate headquarters was in Middletown, and the big brass saw what was going on there. They had no clue what was going on in Ashland. And it was rather interesting that a lot of the top people, their top management people, they left the company from there. It happened. Basically, what we might do, we might want to change what we're doing here. In other words, if, we might tell that Northern, the corporate could say, look, we're only going to charge you $44 for the fixed overhead and administration. And in that way, they could pay the $60 to Southern and still have a total cost of $396, right, to get the bid. So that might be one way, you know, and in this case, since Northern's not operating in capacity, they should be willing to pay the 60 and hence pick up the contract as well. And at that point, Southern doesn't care because I don't care if I'm selling to inside or outside, as long as I'm getting $60 a unit. It's not going to affect my net income nor my ROI. Right? And plus, we probably get brownie points by producing it and saying, look what we're doing for you, Northern. And so that might be one. That might be one way to do it and help sort of square the playing field. But again, can you see how that you're going to see personality, you're going to see a lot of different factors come into play. Okay. Let's look at the last little bit here. When's the homework due?
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay. Now, as you say, as it says there, FASB requires company in different lines of business to give certain information. Again, it's FASB number 131 if you're interested, standard one disclosures about segment of an enterprise-related information. Basically, well, they didn't put it up there. That was real nice of them. Basically, what you do have to give like segment revenue from both internal and external customers. You do give the interest revenue and expense, segment operating profit. In essence, you give a segment income statement. That's what most firms will do. Your identifiable assets of that segment, your depreciation, your capital expenditures. Also, too, if it has significant foreign operations, you do have to disclose those operations and profit and losses by geographic area. You know, exactly how much you have in that. Again, the transferring, you have to state what is the transfer pricing method used for performance evaluation in recognizing segment income. And, you know, you also do have to give the internal transactions, how much you're transferring inside the firm. But all that information has to be disclosed, segmented. I was thinking, let's do with that. Okay. Again, when we do establish transfer pricing, some of the options there. Obviously, preferably is the market price transfer. If you do have an intermediate market, that we do have an outside market price for, either using that price or even a small discount from that price, seeing that everything is kept internal and say some of the marketing costs and all that would not occur. And so you can justify that. Now, cost base, some companies just say, look, we're just going to use some type of outlay cost plus typically some markup. Now, what's the real problem with this method? Do you see any negatives? Not everything's hunky-dory?
There's no incentive to keep costs under control.
Okay. Again, if I can pass along all my costs, what do I care? What the cost is. I have my set markup, so I'm guaranteed my set profit. And so a lot of companies have found that this is very negative and very much a problem in handling it. But again, when you have a top-down interventionist centralized management, you'll oftentimes fall back to this because one, it's simple. This is what you're going to do. The problem is that it's just we pass along our problems, our burdens. There is no incentive to actually go out and try to find what's a cheaper way, what's a different way. Now, the other one is negotiate, transfer. Again, this is where we have very diversified. We flatten out our decision making, and we're going to have the managers do it. Again, as I've said before, the problem here is you oftentimes don't get the optimal price. You find out who's the better negotiator. And if the division has a better negotiator, they're going to come out smelling pretty. Now, sometimes what companies will do, will use a dual price system. And a dual transfer pricing system is where you recognize one price for the selling division and another price for the buying division. And you may, again, this is one, it preserves, the cost data for the separate divisions and makes them act more like external divisions, buying and selling externally. I'm looking at 37. With the dual price. To be honest with you, it's been a few days since I've looked at this, and I'm like going, yeah, I know. Dude. Nah, that's not the one. Find that, we'll look at what I favor the one I have. Yeah, we got time. Let's work this one that I had marked. Again, correct me if we have done that. Have we looked at 1528? Evaluate the different ways to do that. Huh? We have not. That's one of the ones I marked to look at to help illustrate some of this material. Let us look at it then. And, sir, if you want to sit by somebody with a book, she probably won't bite you. She might, but I don't know. always get timid about raising that thing, because in 201, one time I flipped it up and it broke, and it took 8 years to fix it. And I'm not willing to wait. Okay. Evaluate the profit impact on alternative transfer decisions. Amazon Beverages produces and bottles a line of soft drinks using exotic fruits from Latin America and Asia. Manufacturing entails mixing and adding juices, coloring ingredients at a bottling plant, which is part of mixing division. Finished products packaged in a company-produced glass bottle pack in cases of 24. Because the appearance of the bottle heavily influenced sales volume, Amazon developed an antique bottle production process at the company's container plant, which is a part of container division. Mixing division uses all the container plant's production. Each division, mixing and container, is considered a separate profit center and evaluated as such. As the new corporate controller, you're responsible for determining the proper transfer price for use for the bottles produced for mixing. At your request, the container division asks other bottle manufacturers to quote a price for the number and sizes demanded by the mixing division. The competitive prices are as follows. For 400,000 cases, it's $7.20 a case. For 800,000, drops to $6.25 a case. And for 1.2, it's down to $5.40 a case. Okay, and container division's analyst indicates it could produce bottles at these costs: 400,000, $6, 800,000, $5, and 1.2 is 4.67. These costs include fixed cost $800, variable cost $4 per equivalent case. The data have caused considerable corporate discussion as to the proper price of use and transfer of bottles from container to mix. The interest is heightened because a significant portion of the division manager's income is incentive bonus based on profits and results. The mixing division has the following costs in addition to bottling, as it states there. And the corporate marketing group has furnished the follow-up price demand for the finished product. Let's get this price per case. Now it says Amazon Beverages uses market price transfer prices in the past, using current market price and cost, assume a volume of 1.2 million. Calculate the operating profits for the container mixing and Amazon Beverages. Well, if we sell what? Say 1.2. The container division, how are we going to come up with that? Again, don't make it harder than it is. That's why I say a lot of these are just learning to read. What price are we going to give for the container division? How much are they going to get for a case of bottles? And you do need to put
At 1.2,
at 1.2.
$4.67.
No. We're looking at revenue. What do they get per case?
$15.
Hmm?
They get 15 per case.
No. I've got 4 different bubbles there. Which one's relevant? What are we trying to figure out here? What did I say? We're trying to do the container division. Revenue minus expenses, profit, right? And we're operating at 1,200,000 cases, right? So And again, this is what, problem 28, is that right? Problem 28. So, what revenue are they getting? How much per case if we use market pricing? $5.40. So, and 1,200,000 cases, and they see it's even easy. They even give you the math. They've already done it for you. 6,480,000, isn't it? We can leave off the zeros. You got 6,480,000. What's our expense then?
$4.67 a case.
Huh?
$4.67 a case.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Combined. Actually, it's what they give you underneath there. It says cost include fixed cost 800,000 plus variable cost of $4 per equivalent case. So at $1,200,000, that's 5,600,000, right? So if we subtract, we get what? 880? What about mixing division? What's the revenue for mixing?
$18 million.
18 million. Again, they get $15 a case. So total sales revenue be 18 million. What's expenses?
$3,400,000.
Hmm? 3,400,000?
In addition to the cost that we already have.
Ah, there we go. In addition, we've got to, what do we add in to that 3,400,000?
That was $5,600,000.
Mm-hmm.
6,480,000.
Exactly. The revenue for the container division is an expense to the mixing department, isn't it? It's not just the expenses of the container, but it's at 6,480. So you got 6,480 plus the 3,400,000. What is that?
$98.80.
And so that would be what? 120?
Yes.
Okay. Again, remember, where's that 880 coming from? You got this, that's an expense to them. That's where the 6,480 is coming for the container, mixing department. And so you add in plus the 3.4 million in addition to bottling cost, it says. Okay. Well, how much revenue is the corporate as a whole getting? You know, corporate. Revenue minus expenses gives us profit. What's revenue for the corporate? Why, sir?
Because that's what they're selling for.
Huh?
That's what they're selling it for.
That's what they're selling to 8 outside people. Guys, you can't simply just add those two together because this represents what? That's an internal transfer price. Where'd they get it? That went from one pocket to the other for the corporate standpoint, didn't it? So what does it matter to them? The answer is it doesn't. Well, how much expenses did they have? What's expenses for the corporation?
Is it 9 million?
How'd you get there?
The expenses from the container division and plus the
3.4 million extra. Exactly. They concurred 5,600,000 here. This 9.880 includes this number, which has to be pulled out. Again, you went from one pocket to the other. So, 9 million, 3.4 million plus a 5.6 is 9 million. Overall profit, 9 million. Okay? Everybody kosher with that? Now they ask us, is this the production and sales level most profitable for volume for the container division? And that's a good question, is it? I mean, at the 1.2 million, we said the profit was 880. Does that hold true for the others?
If they sold 800,000, they have a profit of 1 million.
Exactly. The most profitable is the one at the 800,000 level. You say, what are you doing? Well, remember, all we're doing here, this was 1,200. At 800,000, revenue is what, 5 mil? Expenses are 4 mil, so that gives you 1 mil. And if you plug in the other one, from using the numbers there, you see that you have what, revenue of 2.880 million, but you have cost of 2.4, so only 480,000. So from the container's point of view, 800,000 would be the optimal point. What about for the mixing division? Well, what level's the best for them? Which level is most profitable? We came up with what, 8,120,000 at that 1.2 million. Answers? Do we know what we're doing, Alexis? Don't just sit there if you don't understand. Are you okay with how we got the 8,120,000 up here for the mixing department? And then what would it be if we sold 800,000? What would be revenue? Hmm? Mm-hmm. What would be revenue, Matt?
It'd be 6,800,000.
That would be profit.
Oh, revenue, sorry. Revenue. That'd be 14.
Yeah, the revenue is the 14.4 is what they're selling the finished product for. 14.4 million. Their cost would be 7,600,000, which is simply the 5 million that the container company, the department incurs, plus the 2.6 that the mixing department incurs in addition to containers. And so they come up, and if you did it 400,000, the revenue would be 8 million, which is given at the bottom page there. And you would take the 2,880,000 for the containers and add that to the 1.8 million, or a total of 4,680,000, I think. Check. Which means your overall profit would be roughly what, 3,320,000? Is that right, man? Thank you. And so here, which level is the most profitable? The 1.2 million, what we have up here. 1.2 million cases, 8,120,000. And so the mixing and the mixing and the container actually on a market-based transfer system would come up with different levels of where maximum profit will be obtained. Now, corporate as a whole, by the way, if we came up with 9 million for the corporate at the 1.2, if you do 800,000, you're going to come up with, I guess it'd be 6.8 mil, right? Yeah. It would be the 14.4 million minus a total cost of total cost of 6.6 million. Yeah, the 4 million plus the 2.6. So that's what? 14 million minus 14.4, excuse me, minus 6.6. What is that? 7.8 million. And at 400, you got revenue of 8 million, bottom bubble, minus total cost of 2.4 million plus 1.8, that's 4.2, so 3.8 million. So for the corporate as a whole, that's in line with mixing. 1.2 million cases is the most profitable. And the corporation maxes out its profit based on the selling price to outsiders relative to the total cost of the product. Hence, they are profits. Well, we will finish this.